Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
7:07, O'Connor and Company. Thanks for being part of our morning routine, which isn't very routine if you think about it. We have an extraordinary morning every day here from 5 to 9 a.m. Coming up in 30 minutes, we'll speak with the Sheriff of Frederick County, Chuck Jenkins, as he sends up the warning flare about the lawmakers in Annapolis prohibiting him from cooperating with ICE. 8:05, Jorge Ventura, Daily Caller, is covering things in Minneapolis, so of course he's now being threatened. And at 8:35, President of the Trump Kennedy Center, Ambassador Rick Grinnell. It's Larry O'Connor with Bethany Mandel. Good morning, Bethany.
Good morning, Larry. What a pleasure to be here with you.
Staying here, and we Marylanders, we live where we live for various reasons. But I don't know about you. Part of me always a little jealous of Virginia. There's a lot going on.
I knew the shoe was going to drop for them.
Well, and it has. Boy, are things insane in Richmond right now. Let's bring in State Senator Bryce Reeves, who is doing his best to sort of hold back the floodwaters in Richmond. But what's the latest here? You've described what's going on in this legislative session as the Californication of the Commonwealth.
Well, good morning, Larry and Bethany. Yeah, we're getting screwed pretty hard. It's, Abigail Spanberger came in with great hope and great stories and tales of how she'll be a moderate, and she's governing everything but that. And if you look at where we are with the way Governor Youngkin left the state, we were in the top 5 for states to CNBC. At one point we were ranked number 1. But I think we're going to fall down to the bottom based on what my colleagues in the General Assembly are doing every day. Literally yesterday, I had to sit in Senate Finance and watch an 11% tax go on ammunition and guns, and not to mention they're going to get rid of them. But 15 new taxes, everything from electric leaf blowers and they want to get rid of gas blowers, by the way. Amazon delivery, DoorDash, Uber Eats, guns, ammo, dog walking, grooming, haircuts. Literally, they're going to tax us to no end. So if you love living in Maryland, which I know you two do, we're not going to be far behind. So I would love for you to come to Virginia. It'll look worse than Maryland. So there you go.
That's a sad. So as people are listening to this real fast, if I could, and I'll hand it over to Bethany. Senator Reeves, people listening are going to be pretty downtrodden and depressed about what you're saying. Is there any hope here? Or is this all a political play? I keep maintaining that Democrats are purposely throwing everything. They even a 10% tax on families who go to Busch Gardens. I mean, honestly, if they're taxing anything that moves and doesn't move. I still maintain that they're doing this to make Abigail Spanberger look like some sort of moderate. So she'll veto a few of them. And then the media in Washington, D.C. will say, she should be president because she's a moderate Democrat.
No, I think they're going to get signed, quite frankly. She's shown no visible signs of slowing down. In the first 2 hours she took the reins, she got rid of Governor Youngkin's executive order to make the state police work with our local federal agents on, you had it earlier in your program about 287G, and we had a bill come through yesterday on that as well. And so I think she's going to sign a lot of these. She's no moderate by any stretch of the imagination. And, they've got a lot of things they want to spend on. And, they're going to eat up that surplus, but that's still not enough. And as they go through and put 4 constitutional amendments this year on the ballot for Virginians, if you look at those constitutional amendments, she's waiting to sign the first one, which will be the total redistricting of Virginia, taking us from 5 Republican congressmen down to 1 and giving the Democrats 10. After we've had a whole referendum on that where the majority of Virginians voted that take gerrymandering out of the equation and politics out of it, and everybody agreed to that. And as soon as they grabbed power, now they're going to switch it around, all to try to sway the midterms elections. And what I've been saying, Larry and Bethany, is that they're overreaching so far, and they've made Virginia the tip of the spear for the rest of the country to watch in the Democrat Party, that the rest of America is paying attention to Virginia right now and what's happening to it. And I think it's going to help Republicans in the midterms.
Do you think that Democrats deciding to tax anything fun could, is that a message that could win with y'all? Because I feel like taxing DoorDash and ammo and, anything that brings joy, will that resonate with voters?
Absolutely. And Abigail ran on affordability. They put their pen in their hat and said, we're going to play back her inaugural speech. Everything was about affordability. Everything they are doing right now is the exact opposite of that. And people are surprised. And I said, I'm not surprised. And here's why. She was a phenomenal case officer for the CIA. She could gain your confidence, bring you in, and then just totally annihilate you. And that's kind of a job of a CIA operative, right? To get information and gain information and gain your trust. Well, after they've gotten that, then they're going to destroy you. And so she's doing what she's been trained to do. And now there's a bigger influence and a bigger eye and paying attention to what she's doing because, she was one of 400 plus in Washington. Now she's one. And there's a lot of news outlets that are covering this, and this is important.
There are going to be a lot of Virginians who hear you, Senator Reeves, and they're going to look at the scoreboard here. They're going to recognize exactly what's going on. They're going to see which way the winds are blowing, and they're going to say, "Yeah, this is too much of an uphill fight." I've tried to keep Virginia. I've tried to save Virginia. But at some point, I've just got to do what's best for my family. And they're going to consider moving to West Virginia or moving to Tennessee or moving to Florida. What should they do? What would you tell them?
I think that's an individual decision for those folks. I mean, if all these things go through there, one thing, I think if you look at where our caucus is, we're only down one vote. And we actually picked up a vote 2 years ago, or our district, excuse me. But, we didn't have Republicans just didn't come out last year for our statewide ticket. And I think if you look at interest rates and where everybody is, I think financially, I don't know that a lot of people can leave. But I think those that are affluent, that have that ability, these companies, I feel really kind of sad for the companies that Governor Youngkin had brought in here that are investing millions and millions of dollars. I'm sure they're second guessing it. What I would tell you is that, look, I'm just going to tell you what our caucus is doing and what the House Republican caucus is. We're fighting each and every day. We're using the rules of the Senate, whatever procedures we can use, and that is also in the courts, which we got a stay of execution on the redistricting, but they're still moving forward. You guys talked about sedition earlier.
Yeah.
Yes, they're going to, hell with the law, they're going to move forward. But I think some of these things will have to come through the court system. I would tell those Virginians, have hope. There's a Republican Party out there. We've got to get our feet back under us. There are many of us that are leading, that are trying to make that difference. We are getting some great bills passed, and that will help everyday Virginians. But we are pounding the desk saying, this is not affordable. All day long, how does this work towards affordability? And so I think the Democrats are starting to get hammered on that a little bit. And hopefully, maybe, let's hope that they come to reason.
All right, we'll leave it there. Virginia State Senator Bryce Reeves with a message of hope for people who want sanity in the Commonwealth. We got to get through this and keep fighting, and hopefully we've got some light at the end of this very dark Spanberger tunnel. Thank you, Senator. Keep us up to date.
Larry, Bethany, thank you. Yep, God bless. Bye-bye.
All right, coming up, could be worse. You could be in Baltimore. We'll give you some amazing audio from Baltimore's mayor in a second. First, though, at 7:15. Everything is racist, especially questioning the mayor of Baltimore, Brandon Scott, on his use of taxpayer dollars to the tune of $163,000 to buy himself a sweet new 2025 Jeep Grand Wagoneer with specialized safety armor and security features. Mayor doesn't necessarily need that kind of vehicle, but what the heck? He's the mayor. And here's the thing. We talk about this a lot, Bethany. The arrogance of local elected officials in this region is absolutely, Mount Everest scale, where they know that they can pretty much do whatever they want. And number one, they're not going to face any sort of political challenge because it's one-party rule. And number two, the media isn't going to call them out on it because the media is bored with local politics. They just look the other way. They don't care. That Loudoun County School Board can have a terrorist practice session with play actors and compare those terrorists to parents, the parent of the terrorists, on the same day that a child was killed by a public school employee. They get away with it because no one's there to call them out on it, or a very small handful of people are there to call them out on it.
Yeah, I mean, they're completely uninterested also. We basically don't have local media. I've told this story the other day on the air, but there was an interesting local story that I tried to pitch to the Washington Post. I got them on Signal. Like, I do this for a living. I have a communications company where getting news coverage is my job. And I couldn't get them to care about a very interesting, salacious local news story with no political angle. There was nothing. It was just, this is newsworthy. Yeah. And the Washington Post has gutted their metro section, and no one seems to care.
In any other city in the country, for the most part, or region, you'd have reporters. Reporters, they make their name doing this sort of thing, local reporting on corrupt politicians.
Yep.
And holding their feet to the fire, speaking truth to power. It's everything that Jim Acosta claims the First Amendment and freedom of press is all about. So, $163,000, taxpayers paid for it. Beautiful, brand new 2025 Jeep Grand Wagoner. The price is higher than some home values in Baltimore for this vehicle. Obviously, this is something that the mayor should have a good answer for. So what happened when the one reporter in all of Baltimore decided to ask the mayor about this? Well, you take a listen. It's so predictable you can set your watch to it. Go ahead. Let's listen.
But with that, this vehicle is still $55,000 less than before. So again, I want to ask you the same question.
Okay, Tessa, we'll just stop you right there. We get it. We understand that your station has this severe right-wing effort underway. We get that. But you also, you guys are dragging this thing out and also not including all the facts. A vehicle that was purchased in 2023 is not the same price as 2025, right? You have to understand that reality. When you look at, I'm talking, you can listen to, let me talk, please. We heard your question. You've asked the same idiotic question now for 3 months. We understand that when you look at a base price for SUVs, base price of SUVs now, as you know, between $90,000 and $100,000. You're talking about a police vehicle with police equipment on it added on top of that vehicle. It's very simple. And when you look at, these are not astronomical costs, right? You guys and your station in particular would never ask the President of the United States how much the beast costs. You wouldn't do that. You would never do that. This is ridiculous. Let it go. Next question.
For Governor Moore as well, his car costs about $78,000 to $80,000, and he drives across the state. Governor Hogan's car costs $70,000 now. Again, that was bought when he was state.
That's a long time ago. And I also would. Well, you looked at. I understand that. I did answer the question. Just because you didn't get the answer that you wanted in your racist slant, there's one thing.
There it is. You're a racist right-winger. You'd never ask Trump about the beast. And everybody knows that the mayor of Baltimore requires the same kind of security vehicle that the president of the United States required. I do like the very beginning where he was like trying to be super smart about it and say, listen, SUV 2 years ago was a lot cheaper than an SUV right now, which sort of admits that the old vehicle was only 2 years old. Why did you need a new one?
Right. By the way, I remember a lot of people asking questions about the Air Force or the plane that President Trump got from Qatar. Was that racist to be asking those questions? The answer isn't accepting vehicles from foreign countries or spending way too much money. It's just not feeling entitled to spend as much as you want of our money.
There was a certain level of privilege that the mayor was expressing there. I'm not sure how to put my finger on it exactly. But yes, I'm the mayor. I'll spend taxpayer dollars however I want, and if you ask me or challenge me, you are racist. It's good to be the mayor of Baltimore. 723.
Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
737 here on O'Connor and Company, where we have a front row seat to the golden era and the renewal of our nation, and yet, sadly, at the same time, the deterioration politically of our own neighborhoods. We just talked about what's going down in Richmond here with Democrats taking over in Virginia and a whole host of new taxes and regulations. And, of course, Maryland has always had those issues, but one little safe haven, the land of happy living, has been the county of Frederick, thanks in many respects to the leadership of Sheriff Chuck Jenkins. But now one of the key components to his ability to keep law and order and public safety in Frederick County is now gravely under threat thanks to a new vote in the Senate and the House of Delegates in Annapolis. He joins us now. Good morning, Sheriff Jenkins. Always good to talk to you, sir.
Good morning, Larry.
Well, you gave us a warning here on this 2H7G agreement. This allows you and I believe 6 other counties in Maryland that have chosen to do so to cooperate with ICE and be able to turn over criminals to federal authorities so that they can then be deported or be handled by federal authorities since they have broken immigration law as well. And now lawmakers in Annapolis, it appears, are set on undermining your ability to keep Frederick County safe. What's the latest here?
They are, Larry. You know, we're at a place I never thought we would be 18 years ago when I started this little-known program at the time. And this program, 287G, has gone so far, such a great way in making our county a safer county. I'm just shocked that these elected people we elect in Annapolis would, for the sake of their own political careers, jeopardize the safety of Marylanders in their respective counties.
So who are the kinds of people who, are being let onto the streets? Like, give me an average profile of, like, this is someone who will soon be on the streets of Maryland in Frederick County.
There is no average profile. So if you think about any crime that you can even mention or think of, individuals have been locked up, have identified as being in this country illegally. They've been charged criminally. They've been adjudicated in their respective counties. And rather than release them back onto the streets, we turn them over to ICE in our jail. It's a safe handoff, a safe turnover to ICE. That individual is then reported and removed from this country. And listen, over 18 years, we've had almost 1,900 criminals removed from our community. How much safer are we? I mean, it's immeasurable.
This is critically important, what you're saying here, because despite what the lawmakers and Governor Westmore, has Governor Moore said one way or the other whether he will sign or veto this?
You know what? I've been thinking about this, and listen, politically, I'm sure Governor Moore and I do not agree on much of anything, but if he's the type of man I think he is that served his country, and I have a respect for that, a deep respect, if he really believes in the safety of Marylanders and believes in the Constitution and the rule of law, he will not sign this bill. All
right. I hope you're right. I do. You're more hopeful than I am. But let's just be clear here. I don't know what the lawmakers in Annapolis are thinking if they think that this means that ICE is not going to operate in Maryland. But they will. They will. They're still going to be going after these criminals who are in the country illegally and who have violated the law here. They're still going to get them off the street. The difference is that instead of having them processed in an orderly fashion in the county jailhouse, as you just described, there's going to be street actions. And I almost feel like the lawmakers, the Democrat-dominant lawmakers in Annapolis, they want that. They're jealous of all the chaos in Minneapolis, and they'd like to see it right here.
Larry, I believe it 100%. You're going to see the chaos. I hope I'm wrong. I really do. I don't want to see it. But they're going to see exactly what we haven't seen over all these years because, listen, ICE is going to come in and do their job. Homeland Security Investigations is going to come in, and they're going to make their apprehensions. They're going to make the arrests. So as quickly as we release these people onto the street, they're coming after them.
Yeah.
We haven't seen that because of what I've been told directly by ICE officials that we haven't seen ICE in this county in any heavy numbers because of what we do in Frederick County in our jail. Doesn't make plain that.
So I've heard from a lot of, opponents of ICE that these folks are not any more likely to commit crimes. You have access to everyone who commits a crime in Frederick County. What are the statistics indicating to you? Is an illegal immigrant in Frederick County more likely to be someone who breaks the law in other ways?
I can't say it's more or less likely, but I do believe, again, when you look at recidivism generally, I believe there is a fair chance that many would break the law, reoffend, re-victimize. And listen, those people who say that illegal immigrants are less likely, you don't know because you can't measure a negative. Nobody knows because nobody knows who these people are.
So at this point, there are two different bills. Are they going to then go into conference and sort of work out details? Because I understand one of the bills from the Senate chamber also includes prohibitions from utilizing masks on law enforcement. Can you speak to that as a law enforcement professional and the?
All I know, Larry, in Frederick County, we don't use masks to make arrests. We don't do that. I understand the need right now for Homeland Security and ICE to do that. Those agents are at risk. They're carrying out a mission that really right now the society is largely against in a lot of jurisdictions. So it's for their own self-protection. I understand that. I haven't paid a close amount of attention to the mask issue, but yes, the House and the Senate are going to get their heads together. This is going to pass. And again, it comes down to the governor. Does he have the fortitude to do the right thing here?
Yeah. And that's what we'll have to keep an eye on. All right, Sheriff Jenkins, keep us updated. I know how much this... Yeah.
Larry, it's too late to run for governor. Can I file?
Dude, don't threaten me with a good time.
Right.
Is it on the table?
No. Listen, I love what I
do. You tease.
I got to stay in my lane,
All right. Sheriff Chuck Jenkins. He is running for re-election in Frederick County. Now more than ever. That needs to be the campaign slogan.
Yeah,
Chuck Jenkins, now more than ever. It's 7:43. Coming up, we've got Rick Grinnell joining us at 8:35. Talk about the latest on the Trump Kennedy Center. Before we venture into that, it just occurs to me, we talked about Joy Behar earlier. We played this audio of her comparing Don Lemon going into that Baptist church in St. Paul with Eisenhower documenting the horrors of a Nazi concentration camp in Dachau. And obviously any Holocaust comparisons here are ridiculous. But it just occurred to me, Bethany, what exactly does Joy Behar think happens inside a Baptist church?
We've never been inside a church unless they're none of them have been in a Baptist church unless they're storming it.
Is there some comparison between Southern Baptists, Christians worshiping their Lord and singing praise and praying and hearing a sermon on a Bible verse with a Nazi concentration camp where Jews were slaughtered by the millions? What?
Honestly, it says a lot about what they think of us, honestly. They do think that we are all Nazis. And by the way, the chutzpah of them to call us all Nazis while looking the other way for 2.5 years when Hamas committed the worst atrocities since the Holocaust is like such a chef kiss of hypocrisy that is only possible from the left.
Yeah, the keffiyeh has replaced the swastika as their emblem of honor there. All right, back over to the Trump Kennedy Center, though, of course, everyone is talking about the fact that the president has announced that it will be shut down as of after July. Actually, it's as of July 5th. They will have a final performance on July 4th for the 250th. Then it'll be shut down for approximately 2 years for a major rehaul and renovation. And there's some suggestion that this is just a cover-up for the fact that there's got dwindling audiences. And one thing is for certain, financially, the place has never been sounder. They've gotten donations. They've gotten corporate sponsorships. They've been able to balance the budget. And now they're taking advantage of this opportunity to actually do full renovations that need to get done. No one denies that, by the way, but all these reporters who were criticizing and complaining and making a big deal out of this didn't say one word about the disrepair in that building, Bethany. For years, they just ignored it.
Yep. No, it's totally uninterested in such mismanagement that it was referred to the DOJ. It was criminal what they've done to this building. And for people who claim to care so much, including the Kennedy Center themselves, the Kennedy family themselves, they were silent. I care very deeply about the arts. You care very deeply about the arts. I've been going to Kennedy Center shows for a very long time, as have you. I didn't care when it was run under Biden, though I will say I enjoy that they're not putting on shows during July now about the transgender founding fathers, like they did during the Biden administration.
That is refreshing, isn't it?
But this idea that suddenly Trump has politicized the arts and politicized the Kennedy Center is only possible from people with no self-awareness and people who have not been paying attention to the Kennedy Center for the last 10 years because it was nothing but politics. That's right.
That's right. And sadly, most of the arts and the performing arts have become nothing but politics, but some of the classic art isn't. And it is funny that at the same time that right up until the announcement of the shuttering of the Kennedy Center for renovations, people were writing their headlines about how artists refuse to perform there and they can't get bookings and no one wants to perform there. And now they're all wringing their hands and renting their clothing and putting ash on their heads because, what about the poor artists? What about all of the artists who now aren't going to be able to perform there for 2 years? I'm sorry, I thought nobody wanted to perform there. So you can't have it both ways.
Yep. No, I mean, also, so here's a headline from the New York Times. Trump's Kennedy Center shutdown plan jolts workers and performers. You didn't care about the workers when you were telling everyone to boycott. All of a sudden, they're like, oh, wait a second. What about the maintenance workers? I'm like, yeah, what about the maintenance workers?
Yeah. Thank you. The maintenance worker's job is going to be a lot easier now that the place isn't falling apart. And my suspicion is that for the most part, a lot of the stagehands, at least the core group, again, not to keep throwing it out there, but not many people have my job and also renovated a major 2,000-seat theater in their lifetime, which I did. The heads of department for all the stagehands were employed during the entire renovation because they were part of this process. My suspicion is the key personnel at the Kennedy Center who work on a full-time contract will probably still be there because their input is going to be very valuable in terms of how this place functions and how it needs to function and what's wrong with it and what's broken. Yes, some of the ushers and people who work behind the bar are probably going to be out of work for a couple of years. Those are more transient type of jobs and employment. It's terrible that that's the situation, but that's what happens when you let a place go into disrepair as the previous ownership or management has done. Ambassador Rick Grinnell, who is the president of the Trump Kennedy Center, he'll be joining us to talk about all these issues coming up at 8:35. Right now, it's 7:53.